Hey everybody, Jim Benton here with Chorus for the daily briefing. And today I'm joined by the co-founder and chief analyst at TOPO, Craig Rosenberg. Hey Craig, good to see you.
Great to see you. Excited to start my morning with this. It's
I
gonna
love it. Happy Wednesday. Here we go.
It's Wednesday. All right. I don't care. Whatever. But the morning we'll get this thing going and start talking some sales.
Well, hey Craig, I was looking at your mission statement: reinvent your sales and marketing in uncertain times with our latest tools, insights, and events. It is uncertain times, and you and I go back, and we've done this in good and bad times.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what's been different about this period. You've seen '01, you've seen 2000, you've seen '08, '09. Anything catching your attention about this one?
Yeah, I think. Well, this has been much, in my opinion, much different. I mean, by the way, do we call the crisis 2000 or 2001? I noticed you corrected yourself. I want to make sure I nail it.
Well, it's funny. I lived in New York in '01, so I think of '01, but that's 9/11. 2000 is the NASDAQ drop. So
right. Okay.
I want to hit more on the economic side than the 9/11 right now.
Yeah, but think about what happened in that one. It was like a 5-year recovery. It was slow. We didn't know, and frankly, in my opinion, in many ways, we didn't know how to kickstart business. In 2008, it was a shock, like a crazy shock to the system. But frankly, we rebuilt pretty fast, right? Yeah. I mean, if you look at the numbers, we rebuilt pretty fast.
Greg, what were you doing in 2000? Where were you then?
I was at a San Francisco-based startup named Cymerk, a more David Al venture company, and we got our Series B, our $6 million. They told us to spend it all because we're going to go get you some more and go grow big. We spent it all, had the meeting. They walked out and said, "All right, everyone, you got 12 hours to get out of here." And but here, you know what? Here's the thing. I became a consultant for a guy named Stu Silverman, who, in my opinion, is the ultimate legend in sales, inside sales in the Valley. He built the original teams at Cisco and Sun and DEC, and he'd been around for 30 years. I started consulting for him, and that made me better because I consulted sales, inside sales teams for that 5-year period after where it was hard to sell stuff. And it was a really good learning. So
I was at evite.com back in that 2000 window. We got acquired by Ticketmaster, and 4 days later, I moved to New York. We're literally like, "Yep, you start on Monday. Find a way out there." So I remember those. Where were you in '08, '09?
'08, '09 was we had myself and the founder of TOPO, actually Scott Albro. We had a business media company called Tippet. So essentially, we owned and operated vertically aligned websites, and we used those to create leads. Content syndication, webinar leads, etc. So that I was the VP of marketing there. So that's where I learned all my marketing chops. I was having to deliver tens to hundreds of thousands of leads per month out of those sites and through SEO and through all these things to our clients. So that was, the nuclear winter that year was scary, man. I mean, you were there. Were you doing your thing?
I was just starting. I chose a great period to co-found ClearSlide. I picked 2 weeks before the market crashed to decide to quit the job and work out of your kitchen. And we wrote it out. We wrote it out from September '08 to March of '09. Was a little bit of a crazy time, soul searching. But because of that, we built a beautiful product the world needed, and we incorporated March 9th of '09 when the market bottomed at 6,500. And what that just meant was there's no competition. No one's copying you. No one's chasing you. The market was ours for about 3 to 4 years where we could just go for it.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's like when the elephants who make it through for the next rain come out stronger and better and healthier, and they have lush green and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, 2008 is a great lesson. If you looked at those that reinvented it, Gartner has done this study, that's our parent company, where basically those that reinvented came out of 2008 better. I mean, they were the ones who shot to the top, and then we had people fall off and both sort of stay the same. But 2008 was a fast rebound. The issue with this one is that we just don't know. Everything's changing by the minute. The data, it's not clear. It's very confusing, as you said. I mean, the stock market bounces off the bottom, but doesn't reflect Main Street. there's pockets of insane opportunity, as we were talking about, and
Yeah.
it's just hard to know what's going on. That uncertainty is made it very difficult to figure out what to do next. But in my opinion, we're coming out of the stabilized phase, which was hold on for dear life, make emergency moves. We're in reinvent phase. People are starting to figure out what 3 months looks like, what 6 months looks like, and 9 months looks like. And, people are using this opportunity to go reinvent and do new things, doing the right things, as you and I have talked about. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this period, and we're now starting the second phase, but when we look at the data for recorded meetings, the most recent data we pulled today is that this week is down 3%. So we've been essentially holding steady. We've been down since March 30th, but overall, what's been unique is that there hasn't been this wild shift when everyone shifted, to home. What we have seen is that as we've repulled the data on segments, certain segments, to your point about finding those pockets, certain segments are up significantly since pre-COVID levels, and even week over week, we're seeing fintech, bouncing up, whereas other segments, are really having a much more challenging time as we go through this. What are you hearing from the different segments out there? How are people getting through this?
So this is on meetings rates?
Yes.
Meeting rates? Yeah, it's incredible data. Will you go back to the previous slide? I was looking at that before and just going, yeah.
So most segments up 16, but basically companies that are powering work from home, it's been a boom time. Nothing's easy, but they're definitely seeing a huge increase in the amount of meetings they're having.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that you can see, it's so look, there's basically what we talk about uniqueness. We have all these little pieces of uniqueness. In my opinion, what on the buying environment, what we have here is either all in or fold. There's no checks or calls. So the pockets of opportunity are good, and collaboration tools. Do they count? I mean, they're just killing it, man. I mean, talking about like product market fit. But look at sales tech. The realization to the digitally transform when you moved everyone remotely. You have to have execution continuity. The realization of what we were talking about, like when we look at the folks that were already digitally adopted, the transition wasn't hard. Yes, the buying environment was difficult, but the transition wasn't as hard. And so, look, we've seen on the enterprise side, like the acceleration of sales digital transformation, they have to. There's real challenges, real pain. People are peeling back some of their tech stack on the sales side, but sort of stabilizing and building on the essentials, like CI is a essential now, because we have to figure out what's going. We need fact-based understanding of what's going on out there, the ability to coach and those kinds of things. So
I wanted to get your take, Greg, on BDRs and specifically kind of what we're seeing on cold call dials as well as connect rates. But I think what we're starting to see is just some great salesmanship out in the market during this time. And I'm curious what you're, any surprises to see that dials are down, connects are starting to drop a little bit, but how are people building pipeline right now? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I think the first thing you said is really, but first let me just comment on this data. A 2% dip, well, it's not even a 2% dip, 2 percentage points dip. It's actually, this overall is still impressive, right? Because Absolutely. The reality is what you would anticipate is about a 2%. Because it's the shock and awe of the system. Yep. We've definitely seen that people that are willing to call are actually doing better than folks that are only digital.
That's right.
And so that doesn't surprise me. But the key here is what you're talking about is, in my opinion, as part of this reinvention, I don't think I could find a sales leader or a CEO or a CMO of the world that didn't believe that we needed to deliver real value, what we call extreme value, which is the ability to deliver, over deliver value in each touch. I think everyone agreed to that, but we could win without it. We could send, I forget, what did you call it? Numb messages. I love that.
It became numb. They became, the people were running the machine versus the machine enabling the people. We weren't tech-enabled sales. We became sales-enabled tech, and that's not what I wanted.
I just, the phrase numb is incredible. But yeah, this is where the cream of the crop. And I think the thing that we were talking about, it's very important, is that organizationally, we need to be the cream of the crop. I think we always emphasize the superstars. I think that's deceptive. It's like there's one Tom Brady. And so the key is, can you create a system that will deliver with, all your free agents, B players, and all these things? And the ability for them to understand what value is, because one of the keys here is that everyone agrees that we need to deliver value. Now everyone agrees that we have to deliver value. By the way, that coincides with the facts that the definition of value to your buying community today changed overnight. You could live off the same buyer persona in sales tech for 5 years. Now you can't. It changed. And so we're learning. And if you don't have the technology to learn fast, oh my God. Right? Like you've got to go, you have to remessage. That's changing every day. And then you have to learn really fast. I think we'll see on those charts, my prediction is we'll see a little bit, you know how it is. You got to see a little bit of dip, and then we're going to re-rise as better salespeople, because the need to deliver value, the ability to quantify that value, the ability to fix and optimize that value, unprecedented for us. Well, and the opportunity to go do that, that's in our hands right now.
I was going to say, speaking of, just things changing so quickly, this is a stat that we just pulled this week where there's a 91% increase in CFOs joining the sales calls. I mean, it's stunning. And so talk about being, if you're not pivoting your materials and message and the value to specifically speak to the CFO, you're missing the mark right now. And just in the last week, there's, a significant pop on that. Are you seeing this out there, Craig?
Oh my God. Now you shocked me on this data. This isn't even fair. I'm so excited. This is remember how we were making this big hubbub about gigantic buying communities. Yep. Think about right now, everyone moves home. Your buyer can't have a gigantic buying committee anymore, but they have a high impact one. Yeah. So first of all, every deal is going to support a mission critical priority. So that's where, like, when we talk about good salespeople, they will always latch on to the big thing, because the fact is your buying committee now, you have a C-level person who was passive buying through the 8 years of the bull run. It is now, the stakes are on them. They have to get it past a CFO almost every deal. So this data is like so exciting for me, because yes, we are getting reports of deals. I had someone tell me they had a $10,000 deal I had to get signed off by the CFO. And as you know, to sell to everyone on the C-level buying, everything we did from buying committee type stuff that we talked about before was about influencers and fringe players. Actually, now this is fundamental selling. You have to build against the mission critical priorities. You have to deliver a quantitative view of how you can help against those priorities, because you will have to go through an engaged C-level decision maker, a CFO, and the other thing we're training people on is what we call the deputy. In opportunistic buying situations like an 8-year bull run, you could find someone and turn them into a quote unquote champion. Now in order to be a part of deals that are happening, these pockets of opportunity, you have to find the person that has been deputized by the C-level to lead the from the mid-level or VP level, whatever that might be, lead the mission critical priorities. That is, find the solutions and help execute. You need that person, because the champion has less, they can't walk across the hall. They can't sell a new deal. You got to find that person, what we call the deputy, and you got to sell to them. So there's like a really interesting new buying committee. I love that on the CFO. Everything's got to go through the CFO. But that is where you said, like before, maybe not on this call, but when I've talked to you before, the great ones are going to rise, and then the great organizations are going to figure this out and enable against it. So like you said, you have data that says we're listening to calls with the CFO. Think about how huge that is. We couldn't have done that before.
I think your point that mission critical, that word mission is really striking, because we've done discovery in the sales process where we look for critical issues. How do we develop ROI and solve real problems? But right now it's about the mission critical. Unless it is, time sensitive, has to be acted right now, these deals aren't going to get done. And that's everything.
Thank you. Because I've been telling everyone, they're like, well, deal cycles are longer. I'm like, no, they're not. Those are dead deals. People are only solving for the next 6 months. When you find those, you're going to get your sales cycle is going to be shorter.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like that's the other thing on the champion side. It'd be like, so what keeps you awake at night? And we end up with the champion's pain. Well, that pain, if it doesn't correlate to the mission, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And so, yeah, good
I
thing.
think that's the piece that I've been picking on a little bit on these, BDR roles right now, is that their ability to go high, to find mission critical, to truly be the absolute tip of the spear with the biggest heart, the biggest conviction to go in that segment. And some of them are run better than others, but just, it's been challenging because it became so automated on the sequence, the 21 steps, I'm going to educate you and do this. And right now, it is wartime mode. And how do we get out there and how do we react to that? And I don't know if you're seeing that change, but I've had some fire on that with even our own groups. How do we get this going where we break through that noise right now?
Yeah, I know. I think, look, I think the algorithms that worked before, as when things like this happen, this is when, well, you were in New York, like the Wall Street guys will tell you the algorithm worked and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the patterns you mentioned, those things got erased. You had to rebuild them. You had to relearn, and you had the opportunity to think about value. Because frankly, the vast majority of outbound SDR work during a bull market means there's lots of smaller companies that are willing to do things. And so those, just a blanket outbound works fine with them. You could sell to the really low level, inconsequential person who's more likely to respond. Those things changed. As you said, now we got to dig in and we got to go deliver against a smaller buying committee that has their hands on the mission critical, that has a C-level thing. And that takes
a different
really
fishing. That's right. It's a different approach to fishing when it's, more targeted and more specific. One other area, Craig, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I love this. I mean, look, we're a company that helps to coach, and we're seeing incredible coaching moments out there. But this is looking at managers taking actions to help, support the reps. And you mentioned before about kind of A players, B players, and how do we get everyone to become a Tom Brady? Everything I've learned in my years is that it's the system that creates A players. When I see it, when someone uses B player, I just think, unfortunately, the system failed somebody. Somehow the system didn't pull that person up. And I think coaching is one of these systems that allows for managers to share insights. But what we're seeing here is a big drop in March 16th. People were shifting to work from home, and a steady increase. And then around May, we've actually eclipsed the pre-COVID-19, and people are just sharing more inputs. Yeah. Are you getting a sense of a new investment in coaching in terms of the human side of coaching over the last few weeks?
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I just mentioned on your point on that is if we're going to use sports analogies, we talked about, like how many players have left the Patriots and not been even close? And you would say, well, it's, the management has their timing. No, the system allows people to be successful in their roles. So I would agree with that. I would agree. And so coaching is one of those layers. And, we talked about it. I don't think I would be able to go to a sales leader who didn't think coaching was important. It was hard to do, right? And in the world of sales, nothing's new. Just how you can do it changes. And so technology has allowed for coaching, and it's been a revelation. I mean, we have, in this case, remember, we're going through a reinvention phase. So we have the opportunity to be our better selves. Everyone that comes out of this is going to be the elephant, right, for the next reign. And you're going to be better. You're going to sell with, extreme value. And you're going to do all the things you wanted, like coaching. They always wanted to coach, but they couldn't scale it. It was too hard. And I give people a lot more credit than everyone else does. It was hard. I mean, like you had to go figure, now it's at your fingertips, and now people are remote. The messaging is changing. 99% of people changed their messaging in the last 2 months. That means it's not even a question. You got to coach them up. You just showed, we got C-level calls. You can't just, you got to coach that up. Like if that's like, you got to kill you kill the queen. You got one shot. Like, we got to listen to those calls and coach them up. The thing I found is the frontline managers are happier and better. The player, we talk about motivation. Coaching is motivating. How many times have I seen a frontline coach or a player, there might be even adversity before they start to do it, but they leave these calls feeling really good and really connected. And there are exceptions to the rule, and there's bad coach, but it has been part of this connectedness that has allowed us to get through this crisis. But also, now that we know we can do it, I'm not surprised. We left the trough.
Yeah.
Or heading back up. Now coaching rates are basically what you're showing is it's a trend line that's going way up. I expect that now that we know we can do it, we always wanted to. The benefits are incredible from like a tactical perspective, but man, people love it.
We are going to see the best sales in a decade. I mean, we are going to truly see just some remarkable problem solving right now, which is, phenomenal.
We are going to learn. We are going to be better. And coming out of this, this has been a reinvention, an ability for us to do the right thing. And we're going to be doing the right thing going forward. It's going to be great for the world and the business community.
Craig, always just so fun to catch up with you. Love our time together. Thanks for kicking off Wednesday with all of us today.
I love it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers.